Well, we're proud to be here today with Oklahoma Music Hall of Famer Norma Jean, who's, of course, a member of the Grand Ole Opry back in the time and is so gracious to come here today and be a part of this joint project that we're doing with the Oklahoma History Center.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm sure I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
Every minute of it.
Yeah.
Well,
I've learned to do that now.
you were an early member of the Grand Ole Opry as far as women were concerned. There weren't a
Yes.
whole lot of ladies
Yeah.
that were members. So they might have been guest performers, but you were a full-fledged member.
Yeah.
How'd that come about?
Oh, it took a long time. It took a long time. I've been in the music business, quite some time. But that's the way it should be. So, work your way up into it. But I can't remember too much, about it, except that it just made me awfully proud to be called a member of the Grand Ole Opry, which would anybody, I think.
Yeah.
And because I love the music business so much, and I got to do so many great things, and that I would have never been able to do if I hadn't been in the music business. And it's been a great life.
Well, you were discovered here in South Oklahoma City on a little bitty radio station
I
at
was
the
also
time.
born here.
And you were born here in Oklahoma, of course.
Yeah.
So KLPR,
Mhm.
it was the radio station call letters, and there happened to be eventually four of you major music stars that emerged from there, but you were among the first. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit of your memory of KLPR.
Well, KLPR was just our radio station, country music singers, and played great country music. They were always a great station. And I don't know if there's much to tell about, except that I'd wanted to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry and everything for all my life, I guess. Uh, I don't know why I started singing. My mother asked me that one time, and I couldn't answer it. I just kind of was not much music in my family, and I just guess I just loved music. And so when I was 12 years old, we didn't have much money. So I sold my bicycle and bought me a guitar. Mama said, "Go ahead," but she hated for me to do it, but didn't have any money. So there you go. And
It paid off, though.
yeah, it paid off. It did pay off. And it's all I wanted to do, and all I've ever wanted to do. And I think it's great that I was able to do what I, loved from age 12.
Right?
I was not
And
12.
so you were at Capitol Hill High School,
Yes.
and you went to school with somebody else that kind of turned out to be
certainly
famous.
did. I certainly did. She was a big influence on me.
And we're, of course, talking about Wanda Jackson.
We're best friends, always have been. And she helped me so much, which I find kind of strange. Sometimes people are too competitive, And she set me in every direction, introduced me to everybody she could, because she'd already gone through a lot of it, And she was just as happy as I was that she was able to do it, and to help me where she could. She would introduce me. Well, she helped me get on the old Circus Jubilee, and by convincing them that I was worth it. And I thought that was great.
And so did you go straight from high school to the Jubilee? Was that just like an almost
Yes,
automatic?
it really was. It really was. They're pretty early. I can't remember what year, just to be honest, but it was pretty early, and I had just, like I say, got out of high school,
And see, by my estimation and research, that makes you one of the very first females, if not the first, to have a regular spot on a nationally syndicated variety show, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was just so far ahead of your time. I
Yeah.
mean, you really were a pioneer.
Well, I tell you what, Wanda had a lot to do with that. She was very helpful, and of course we were friends. We'd been friends all of our lives, and she was just as anxious to have me get ahead as she was herself. I thought that was great because there's not too much of that going on these days.
Yeah, it's a competitive business, right?
Yeah, it is. It really
Well,
is.
you're here in town, and this is why we're so fortunate to be able to get your story today, because we're going to honor Wanda here in a little while, and with several of you Music Hall of Famers. It's sort of a historic gathering,
Yeah.
if you will, of how many. So thanks for being a part of that. But we're asking everyone to say a little bit about Wanda specifically. You have something you'd share with us about Wanda?
Yes, I guess so. A lot of could share that I won't. She'd laugh at that too. uh, but I was, we were about the same age. She was a few months older than me, and when I was starting out, she pointed me in every right direction and introduced me to people. But she was more than anything. We were always friends. But she never really knew how much I admired her, just really. And she was such a great talent, great talent.
And you covered like her song "Right or Wrong." I know you
Yeah,
recorded that.
I did.
She was a good songwriter too, and
Great songwriter, yeah. If not a better songwriter even than singer, she was really good. She wrote a lot of songs, and anyway, she was a big help to me. She was a great big help because, it's kind of hard to get in and get to know people. And the footsteps that she had taken, like the Ozark Jubilee and that, she kind of led me on the same path, helped me. And because she said, I want you to do well. Well, we were just friends, very good friends.
now, of course, you were a pioneer on television, but you had shared with me something interesting that I hadn't really thought about much. But you, and then I've talked to Grand Ole Opry star Jeannie Seeley about this also. She also mentioned this, that you two joined with Porter Wagoner to do a national tour, and that may be the first time that two lady stars were nationally headliners.
It was rare for two ladies to be on a show, I mean, it was just accepted that there'd be one girl in every show, and no more. And all of a sudden, I don't know what changed it. I guess we just grew up, So,
Well, Jeannie was telling me that was controversial, and that Porter took a fair amount of flack, that he took some ribbing in Nashville saying,
Yeah.
what are you, crazy, doing this, but that the tour was extremely successful, that you
Yeah.
showed that lady singers can draw a big crowd.
Well, I think there's probably some thoughts that women don't get along good or something, or maybe too jealous of each other, but there was no jealousy with one, ever.
And Jeannie and you got along very well
Yeah,
also.
we did. There's not any of the girls that I didn't get along with. And we didn't have many back in those days. And but they were all wonderful people.
And so another one around that time would have been Connie Smith.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who all.
And I really was going to ask you, we're asking about different Oklahoma stars, fellow Oklahomans. Jean Shepherd and you were good friends.
Oh, yeah.
And she's from Pauls Valley, and
Yeah.
it was, I think, maybe the longest reigning Opry star ever, I think, by the time she passed. And so you did some shows together for a good while up in Branson, right?
We did. We had a all-girls show. We had a ladies show, and I think it was called the Grand Ladies or something. I can't remember for sure. But we did that and it was one of the most amazing things to learn. I'd always seen like a lot of competition, and I guess people had between maybe women, but there was just as much among men. But we were noticeable because of our gender. But anyway, I loved to work with the girls. And Jeannie Seeley and I did a lot with Porter together. She came on, and he was one of the few that would put another woman on the show.
Yeah.
But I guess we got along so great, Jeannie and I, that maybe it opened his eyes, and he thought, it ain't gonna be no problem here,
Well, I just think it's interesting. You were a pioneer on television, you're a pioneer for touring, and then you guys, with the Branson show that you did an all-female show. That was really unheard of.
One of the most fun shows I've ever done.
And they always said it was among the most attended. You know, I think it was one of the most success. It had a long run.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And but it was wonderful to be able to be with women, because I always worked with all men, you know, and as had they, you know. And so when we got where we could perform together, it made it a lot more fun.
And
Really
Wanda was a part of that
She
occasionally.
was.
And then they picked another Okie girl, Jody Miller, to be a part of
Yes,
that.
yes,
And you're good friends with Jody.
yes. There's not a woman singer, and I guess there's not a woman, period, that I don't get along with, but the singers got along great. And we had heard talk about maybe people thinking women wouldn't get along, be too jealous or something. Shoot, there was no jealousy, never any jealousy. I don't know how many things that Gene Shepard has pointed me to, said, you need to work that thing, I'll introduce you. You need to do this, and other girls did the same thing. You know, we helped each other.
You were a real sorority kind of.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Jody.
Jody Miller, sweet girl, sweet girl. She grew up in Oklahoma too, I guess, like me, and I'm trying to think when I got to know her. I guess not very well until we sang together, you know, and finally got on a show together. But she was so easy to be around. She was funny. Oh, she was funny. She loved to tell jokes and stories and stuff, and a very interesting person to be around.
Well, you have this big show. It's an all-female cast,
Yes.
and it stars 4 Oklahoma lady singers,
Yeah.
which I think is interesting that we just captivate, you know, so
Yeah.
much of the nation with our talent here. So we're so proud of you, of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
so
thanks
much.
for doing this. Well, so tell me about you made, and I think also what's interesting is that so many of you established your career, you staked it, if you will, and then you leave on your own terms and go do what you want to do.
Yeah,
Because I think a trend between, I know Jody Miller did this, and for a little bit of a time, Wanda did,
Well,
to go
it
be
was-
a mom.
Yeah, that's true.
So tell us about your children.
Well, I have 2 children. One is mine, and one is my stepson, but he's mine too. And I had a daughter that passed away at an early age, a little older than the boy, and so we had a pretty big family.
And what was her name?
Sherry.
Uh-huh.
Sherry Taylor, and she left us early. She was a sweet girl. She was, and I don't know. I don't guess I never ever talked about it before much. And but Randy, he was like my own. I got him. I married Jody Taylor, and it was his kids, you know, Sherry and Randy. And then I had one of my own, and but it was very easy to take up with them. You know, they were.
And that's Jody of the Jude and Jody fame for the furniture store.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your daughter. She lives in Nashville, right?
She's in Nashville. She never wanted to ever sing, never wanted to play music, didn't have any interest in it whatsoever. And I often wondered why, but she liked it. She could have cared less if she ever comes to one of my shows or not, you know. But she just wasn't interested in music. And but she's married, and she has a you know, family now, and she's
And her name is?
Roma.
Roma, okay.
Roma. I don't know what to.
You made so like you make it, and it's a big deal, and you kind of walk away on your own terms. You go and you have a family life. You came back
Yeah.
here to Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and tell us a little bit about how, I mean, that had to be a pretty high
Well,
stakes decision.
It was. It really was. And I thought, will I ever get back if I go, you know? And I did, on my own terms, you know. It worked what I wanted to. And so I was glad I made that decision. And, of course, a couple of those kids were my stepkids, and they had a mother, but she wasn't there for them, I guess. They wanted to live with me.
Yeah.
So that was good.
So what was a day in the life like after you've been a Grand Ole Opry star and a national touring musician, and you come back to
Come
Oklahoma?
back home and eat fried chicken. And,
Now, did you have a ranch?
Yes, we did. We had a ranch like 30, 40 miles from where we lived, and he was there. He worked the ranch a lot, and he had a business partner, and they owned a furniture store, a furniture business, and I got to know him because he sang, and we'd appear on shows together from time to time, or Klpr radio, and anyway, I'd known him a long time, but we just got married, and so I kind of took in the kids, and so I was the mother of 3 for a while there, and enjoyed every minute of it, just about.
Yeah.
And
Well, so you had an entry back into the show. You asked whether or not you were going to go. You did make it back to show
Yeah,
business.
I
So
did.
how did that transition work?
it worked fine. I was really surprised. I was surprised that, you can take that much time off and people still remember you. And so that was especially a good feeling for me, because I thought, hey, shoot, they may have forgotten me by the time I get back. But they hadn't. The doors were just open wide, and I got to do just about everything I tried to do, And but again, I had helpers along the way. People in the music business are pretty close. They're pretty close friends, and there's not much jealousy.
Mhm.
I used to think there would be, but there wasn't much jealousy, and I don't know the times that people have helped me do this, that, or the other, or pointed me to someone and said, he's booking shows, you need to go do one, and they helped each other.
But you went from the Jubilee to the Porter Wagoner Show,
Yeah.
and you were there for years. And so
Yes.
when you walk from that, he has a big gap to fill, and he famously picked Dolly Parton.
He filled it well.
But she wrote very openly about how hard it was to fill your shoes, and about
Well, she
how,
told me that, and I said, I don't think you're having any trouble. And she said, well, I'm doing all right, but she said, everybody wants to see you.
well, and the
Yeah.
fans, evidently, there's multiple accounts about how many wrote the show and talked about how much they missed you there, in spite of having Dolly there
Yeah.
to entertain them in the meantime. So I can imagine how easy it was for you to come back, because I'm sure they were longing
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, they still were.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy. I never dreamed that as many people. I didn't know how popular I was. I was pretty popular with the people, and the ones that would come to the shows, and they never forgot me and took me right back in.
And you went on and did, I think what's also a trend with Wanda and Jody and Jean is that you all embraced gospel music, but maybe none as much as you did. You really were a forerunner for cowboy churches.
I wasn't saved until I was an older person, and so it was fresh with me. And most everybody were Christians. The women I know, all of them were Christians that I can think of, and I was probably talked about it and did more gospel songs because it was newer with me, and I wanted to do.
But you were a real leader again in the cowboy churches. I mean, there's a lot of that now,
Yes.
but you were a pioneer in that.
Yeah, see, I'm trying to think who that just started another one in Branson. I did one again for a while, and then one of the girls, I can't think who's doing it, but somebody else. There's been 2 or 3 that have done cowboy church shows.
But there, you were paying it forward for all those that you mentioned helped you. I know several who said, getting to do Norma Jean's Cowboy Church was a must stop for them, and you provided a big opportunity for a lot of artists to showcase.
Yeah, we did.
And
But it was a wonderful time of my life. I was fresh, a fresh Christian. I wasn't raised as a Christian, and not that we were not Christians, but we didn't. My mother and dad didn't take me like to church and everything very much, and so I didn't know too much about the Lord, you know. And when I was saved, it was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Sure.
And
But you know what's so amazing is that people think about what the Mecca Branson is today, but it wasn't necessarily that when you started. You were one of the original folks that come into Branson and said, "We're going to make this a music town."
Yeah, it was. There was just one woman on every show back at that time. You know, and the women didn't have a very big part in it, and you felt lucky if you got on a show. And but that changed eventually.
They're standing on your shoulders today, that's for sure. They're taking it all the way to the bank, I think.
People have been wonderful. They have, and when they care about you, there's the fans of country music fans are one of a kind. I think they're much closer to you, and they want to be closer to you, and they maybe I've never been a pop star, so I don't know, but it just seems like we were like family.
Now, you never got into songwriting, right?
No.
But you're such a stylist, and so you appreciate, I can tell, a good song.
I have given away a lot of good ideas, and I have had some people write songs from my idea.
How come you didn't ever pick up a pen and try to write
I didn't
one?
have the confidence.
Really?
I didn't think I could do it, and I never really got into it. But I've written a few songs for myself, but I never have written anything that I thought was spectacular. So
I think of you in terms of a lot of times, they talk about the outlaw music. Those that didn't mean necessarily getting in trouble with the law, but that they were just kind of railing against the status quo. And I know Wanda gets credit for fashion wardrobe, but you also took some pretty photos and, obviously showcased your beauty. And so I kind of think of you as kind of a frontrunner, too, of the outlaw movement, too, that you defied a lot of the trends.
Well, we were definitely, there was very few of us that were back that early, and but when it finally got to where, it was not unheard of to have two women on show. Back when I started, one woman on every show was all they would ever do, and so that changed eventually, not greatly, but it did change. It was okay,
Well, who were some of your influences?
Wanda was a big one. Wanda was the biggest one. She was the biggest influence because we were close friends ever since we were about 12 years old, and we became great friends. And but when I got more involved in the music business, and she encouraged me, she helped me. She did everything she could do, and I just admire her more than anybody. But then I love all of them in some way. Kitty Wells was always my favorite singer, and still is, I guess. And but I just.
And you got to know her, right?
I know her. I'm not real close with her, but she was very kind to me and friendly, and she's a wonderful person. She got me into reading the Bible more because she was very, she was very into that, and she encouraged me in my spiritual life, and so she was one of my favorites. And there's so many that start naming up, leave out too many out.
Yeah, you told me once, I asked you about some of the people that you enjoyed working with, and you said, I just about got to work with everybody at one time or another. So what a privileged career.
I know. I really did have a privileged career. It was unusual, because it was kind of a thing that women, just go on for one song, what I mean, and so I think they let me broaden it a little. People let me broaden it a little bit.
Well, this was an example of the wardrobe that I think you got to kind of pioneer.
I don't think I ever looked quite like that. Well, I believe it's me.
But on the Porter Wagoner Show, I noticed that they would have you dress more conservatively.
Yeah.
So was that something that you were expected to do?
Yes. Porter liked to keep it simple. He liked to, I don't know how to describe it, but no, he wanted me to, he liked the way I dressed. Of course, I would have dressed probably pretty much that way anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be one of the things that got me the job with Porter. I don't know. Because I was a down-to-earth home girl, you know, and did wear dresses below my knees.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, he really...
Did you get to pretty well pick your songs on there, or did you have a lot of freedom with that, or were you pretty well told?
Porter picked most everything I did at the start. Mm-hmm. At the start, for sure. And I listened to him, but he told me he picked all my songs, and he guided me, but he guided me perfectly.
He was pretty smart,
yes,
business-wise, wasn't he? Yeah.
Very
and he was helpful to get you on RCA Victor.
Yes, he
You'd
was
been
on
on
RCA.
Columbia before.
Yeah, Marty Robbins helped me get on Columbia years before, and I hate to say it, but you know, you almost got to have somebody to help you if you're brand new. Somebody's got to pitch in and help you. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of help.
So tell us about Marty Robbins. I mean, what an iconic
I talked
singer.
for 2 or 3 hours on that one. He was one of the greatest people I ever knew. He
Tremendous singer.
Oh, I fell in love with him. Of course, he didn't know it, but he was a terrific singer, and he was funny. He was so much fun to be around because he was so funny, telling stories and everything was light with him, you know.
Well, speaking of funny, did you know Roger Miller? Did you ever get to work around him?
Yes, I didn't know him real well, but I know him.
Yeah.
But
another Okie.
Yeah.
And so on Porter's show, you left that on you went out and you...
That was hard to do.
Did that end at the same time that you walked away from the Opry? Did you do it together, or did you leave Porter and then later leave the Opry?
Let me think. I left Porter first, yeah. And I couldn't hardly give up the Opry. It was hard.
I bet.
But I finally just felt the need to do it and get out and travel more and
I read back there at the time you were a member. I don't know if that's so much true today. You had to do 26 Saturdays a year.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, that's why I quit.
That would be a huge demand.
Well, I was making good money at this time, and you know, you go to the Opry and they pay you $17 or whatever it was, and which is okay because it's a Grand Ole Opry. But I hated to walk away from the Opry as a member. Mm-hmm. But I had to be able to go out. In other words, I couldn't be there enough mm-hmm. to retain my membership, and I couldn't work out. And I was part of it was probably money because I never had much money, and I sure liked making it. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of shows that paid some pretty good money, and I thought I just got to go. And of course, you were only allowed to go so many Saturdays away from the Opry if you were a member. And I decided to go ahead and strike it out. And it worked out for me. Worked out real good. I could still do the Opry whenever I wanted to. They never turned their back on me, you know.
Right.
So it was, but walking away from being a member, I guess, is probably what was scary to me, you know, a little bit scary to me, but it worked out.
Now, so did you get to, I know Dolly talks about pretty openly when she chose to leave Porter's show, it was pretty rigid between the two, you know, it was a hard, he didn't like it, in other words, I can understand that. How was it when you decided to go?
It was okay. He knew why, and he knew I had to branch out eventually, and we were good friends, and so he just kind of helped me along.
Did you guys stay friends for the rest of his life?
Yeah, we sure did.
Well, that's
we
nice.
really did. and he was my favorite person in the world, I guess, when you get right down to it, because I guess mostly because he was just there for me and helped me so much, and one of the first shows I ever really did, the regular, and but he trained me, he helped me pick songs, and he taught me why to pick them. But I let him pick most everything I did early on, and then I began to see where he was coming from.
You picked up on a trend.
Yeah, I did.
You had some really classy song titles that are pretty innovative and stuff.
But we thought that was a seller, that was people like that, and so I continued to do it.
So of all your hits, and you've had so many, what were the ones that you're kind of the most proud of?
Let's Go All the Way.
Let's Go All the Way.
For sure. It went so big, went so big for me, and I guess that was the first song I did. Well, it was one of the first songs I did too. I record, but it turned out to be such a big song for me, and still love to sing it.
One of the things I like to ask the artist are, what moments did you think you really made it? When did you think, I have arrived?
When I joined the Grand Ole Opry. I hated to leave the Opry, but I just kind of said to myself, well, you've done what you wanted to do. Move on, make yourself some money while you can, and because it don't last forever.
I remember watching
music business money don't last forever.
I remember watching an interview with you some time ago that you said, I never tried to be the #1 singer, but I thought I'd try to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
And you felt like you had achieved that.
I achieved what I wanted to.
Yeah.
And, there was #1. But I was very well liked, and like I say, I'm sure I was in the top 10, And
well, with working on both Porter Show and the Opry and the Jubilee, that's in one part how you got to work with so many.
Yeah.
So, like, here's a photo of you
Wanda,
and Hank Snow.
Yeah. Wanda helped me get on the Grand Ole Opry. She helped me, not the Opry, I'm sorry, the Ozark Jubilee.
Jubilee. Mm-hmm.
And she never was a member of the Opry, I don't think.
No. What about Hank Snow? Do you?
Good old Hank. Everybody loved Hank. I wasn't real close to him. I don't think he got real close to Hank. He had a little air of reserve or something there. But he was sweet and friendly, and he always treated me just like a lady, He was a wonderful guy. He was sure a well-liked guy.
Was he revered?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is one of the most iconic photos of country music with you and all those
Oh, I love this picture.
ladies that were legends.
This is probably the picture that I'm most proud of. Yeah, it is. It really is. The only thing, Porter Wagoner ain't in there.
Yeah.
But all the girls.
All the
it's got
girls.
Kitty Wells, Jan Howard, Minnie Pearl, Dolly, just all in there. I'll show you.
That's pretty much really the first lady Opry stars. You guys all got together. That's you're not leaving too many out there amongst the very first
you're really
ones.
not. And
what a historic photo. What brought you all together? Do you remember?
I don't know what we were doing that day. I can't remember. No, I can't remember why we were all together.
Special occasion.
I kind of think they probably asked, somebody probably asked to get a together photo of the ladies, and they were all there, just about. Got a few more now?
Yeah, I got a few more now, for sure.
Excuse me.
One of the legendary concert venues here in Oklahoma is the Diamond Ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's small and quaint, but it's had a historic run of number. I mean, everybody talks about Kane's Ballroom. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you probably played Kane's, too.
I did. I played it with Leon McAuliffe. And then the Diamond was where my parents would take me, and Hank Thompson would always let me get up and sing with his band.
Wow.
When I was about 12, 13. And
talk about a guy who paid it forward. He helped you and Jean Shepherd and Wanda, all of you.
Yeah, Yeah,
It's tremendous.
he taught Wanda the business, and she did it just like he did. She did great. And
Well, this photo here is of you at the Diamond, and I was wondering who that guitar player was there.
okay.
I didn't know if he was an Okie too or not, but
Oh, yes. His name's escaping me. Haven't seen him so long. I worked with Conway, didn't I?
is that him?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Conway
What's
Twitty.
his name?
Was it Harold Jenkins at the time? His real name?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was Conway. Though.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Oh.
So Conway Twitty's
Okay,
playing
that's-
for you at the
I
Diamond
hope he's
Ballroom.
not watching this. He's probably not around anymore. So a lot
No,
of them are.
he's passed. But, so you got to know Conway. He lived here in Oklahoma
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
I say that because, like Wanda said, she lived around the block from him, but she
Yeah.
never really knew him. And so it's funny how
Yeah.
sometimes you know him at the airport, and then when you live
Yeah.
around the corner from him, you
Well,
don't.
that's true, and so many artists are hard to get to know close to. They have so many people that are pulling at them and
Sure.
wanting to see them, wanting to talk to them, and I guess they kind of get a little bit of a recluse or something. I don't know.
Well, there's you with some of the Opry ladies there, Jan Howard and Connie Smith, Jeannie Seeley.
Jeannie, yeah. Connie looks like she's about 12. I loved all those girls. Still
So
do.
this looks like y'all are just out having fun one afternoon. Would you go out and hang out from time to time?
Very little, very little. We were all pretty busy, and but we weren't maybe that close of friends. We were just like to be around, love to sing on the same shows and things.
Right.
But a lot of them I never got to know very well, but there was a lot that I did. So.
Well, this is in conjunction with the Historical Society, and this will be preserved forever in their archives. So we really want to ask, of all the things you've accomplished, and here we've talked about the Cowboy Church and the Opry and the Jubilee and the Porter Wagoner Show and being a mom, what are some of the things that you're the most proud of?
The Cowboy Church shows, because that probably was one of the best things I did, because a lot of people became more Christian thinking, I guess, after they, I think, saw a country singer just really coming out for Christ, and
You had a lot of dedications there.
yeah, I did.
Right.
I
Mhm.
did.
And so that's something to really be proud of. What would you like to be remembered for?
Being a good person. I've always tried to love everybody, be friends with everybody, and I never put a girl singer down or even a male singer down, really, not in public, I would like to be known as a good person,
Well, I think you've achieved that.
I
So
don't
Norma
know.
Jean, thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
a part of this.
Thank
This
you
is
for
a
talking
wonderful
to me
thing.
for so long. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Giving me a chance. I'm not a great talker,
You did a good job. I think everybody will enjoy hearing this as a part of Shine on Oklahoma Music, and one of our very most precious Oklahoma music stars, Norma Jean.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you.